Any visit to Virginia International Raceway is special, but never more so than after a 4-month forced hiatus from racing. This weekend, the return of Pirelli GT4 America, and today it's Sprintx competition. The second race of the weekend, the 4th round of the championship for this series. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by Calvin Fish. Ryan Marine will be in the pits and pre-grid covering all the action for us today for this 4th round of this championship. 60-minute race, driver change, right smack dab in the middle of it, and a sizable field, Cal, and we saw some great racing and an absolutely remarkable finish in the race yesterday. We'll talk about that just a little bit, but first let's talk about this racetrack. It's a beauty.
It really is. It's old school. It gives you a little bit of everything. It starts with Sector 1. Large brake zone down into the first corner gives you an overtaking opportunity. Then it really tightens up. Very technical. You have to place the race car in exactly the right point to get the power down. And particularly the launch through the snake into Sector 2, up through those high-speed S's. Massive grip up there as you climb the elevation change. Then slowing things down for Oak Tree Turner. That tight right-hander onto the back straightaway really gives you the launch and gives you the terminal speed you're looking for. Then a very busy finish to the lap as you have a lot of elevation change, this time going downhill through the roller coaster to finish out that lap.
Yeah, it's something special indeed. There's a look at Andrew Davis, who will be starting outside of the front row in the number 2 Global Motorsports Group Porsche Cayman for Frosty NYC and Osteria Kitchen and Bar. He shares with Jason Bell. And there on the other side is Bill Oberlin, who in a remarkable run in qualifying put that car up on the pole. It was an awesome run, and then they went out and won the thing yesterday. But it was a unique finish in so many ways here as we take a look at the rest of this starting field here. But the big story was fuel. Obviously, everybody has had to have made some adjustments for today.
Yeah, I think what it is, I mean, there's certainly enough capacity even in this heat to get through a 60-minute event, but everyone wants to save a little bit of weight. So they based off their calculations in practice and during the earlier runs this week. And suddenly with the heat, these engines with the computers and the electronics richen up the motors to deal with the hot temperatures. And basically we saw, like, I don't know, many 8, 10 cars suddenly run out of fuel towards the end of the race.
Yeah, and some of the key players, the leaders at the time, just lots of shuffling right on that last lap as we were hearing cars stumbling and trying and gasping for fuel. And the other component was a number of the drivers we talked to afterwards said, well, we never expected it to be without one yellow in it, and of course that burns fuel too. You save a lot under yellow, so it was just a perfect storm of everything coming together and creating some real drama at the end of things. A team that's faced some pretty immense drama here is the Flying Lizard Motorsports, a team here in that beautiful blue McLaren. Michael Cooper and Aaron Vogel, problems yesterday, but Cooper took a similar car to a sprint win earlier today, so they're optimistic.
They're optimistic, a lot of work to do. He sees a lot of cars ahead of him, the whole field that he's got to try and get through to get to the front, but you know Michael will be up on the wheel early. Yeah,
as always, for sure. But I'll tell you take a look at the drivers that are going to be starting in this one. In the Pro-Am category, the Am driver starts the first race of the weekend. The second race of the weekend, it's the pros. So you've got Bill Oberlin going against Andrew Davis, against Kenton Cook, against Jan Halen, against John Miller, against the Patrick Gallagher, against Toby Grahovic. I mean, this is stacked.
It really is, and even Andrew Davis, after qualifying second yesterday, said not too bad to finish second to the legend, Bill Oberlin. So a lot of admiration there, but that doesn't mean that Andrew Davis will not be fighting for the lead here in the opening lap.
Yeah, and Bill just, it was a mega lap, there's no question about it. I mean, this is a very, very close field, and he ended up some 6/10 clear of everybody out there, but that's what Bill Oberlin's capable of.
He seems to get better with age, doesn't he? I mean, every time you throw a new timeline at him, it's like, no problem, I can still make it happen. And got a great team there with Bimmer World, and really excited to be working with Walker Jr. because I think they've really got off to the season with a relatively quiet start at Coda, not the opening rounds that they were looking for, but they've regrouped with some testing since that time, and they've really come back strong here this weekend.
Feel very aggressive out there, even though they're getting 2 formation laps. A lot of racing has unfolded, and you've talked about it earlier today, Cal, with the marbles offline. You've got to make sure that those tires are really, really clean before you get down into turn 1 and angle.
Yeah, particularly if you have a caution where the tires are really hot. Right now they're rolling out of pit lane. They'll have a little bit of temperature in them. It's a warm day, obviously, but when you're at racing tire temperatures and then you get the caution, then you're rolling around at low speed, they just snowball. They pick up all those marbles. Really hard to get them cleaned off, so the drivers will have to be aware of that and get into some vigorous tire scrubbing if we do get that situation before they go back to green.
Well, we were speculating on the fuel scenario here, and Ryan's got a little bit more from pit lane.
I do indeed, because you'll recall the ST Racing team, they were set to win this race overall with Nick Whitmer and Harry Gottsacker. It appeared that they basically had the thing in the bag when the cars sputtered, and ultimately they coasted across the line 7th overall, but still first in class. But they learned their lesson. I talked to Nick before the race started here just a few moments ago, and I asked him, hey, you guys fill up? And he said, yes, all the way. So leaving nothing to chance here today, guys.
Yeah, that's sometimes that's just an abundance of caution. Might as well go with it, no question. And I'll tell you what, even Harry Gottsacker, he made the comment yesterday. He said Nick Whitmer in that first stint, in qualifying and in that first stint yesterday, he said he was mega. It was just unreal. And the ST Racing team really seems to have hit a setup on those cars, because John Miller said their car was just on rails. It was just flying. And Samantha Tan had an absolutely great stint. That's a team that's really hitting its stride.
It really is. Each year they seem to get stronger and stronger, and got this season off to a great start, and it looked like it was all going to go sideways on them yesterday until we realized that they had a big enough lead in class to
exactly.
Still celebrate. So they loved that overall win, but still got the class win in the silver category for Gottsacker and Whitmer.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, leading down the hill and then ending up still getting that overall, or the class win, as you said, but down that order just a little bit, and that was a heart in the throat moment, I'm sure. But nonetheless, they got the points they needed. There isn't an overall bonus or order for them, so it didn't hurt them too bad, other than use of maybe the pride department here.
At the front of this grid, Porsches up there. You got Andrew Davis going to be giving it all to try and get around that BMW. You got Aston Martin on the inside of the second row with Kenton Cook. John Miller, one of those ST Racing BMWs, a row further back. Toby Grahovic, along with Chandler Haller, had a bit of a moment. He had a great run going in the GT4 sprint race earlier today, but had a big crash. So hopefully he's 100% and ready to go this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously the question is hopefully they've got the capability to either fix, or they can have another car that they can enter for Chandler, so he can get that run in tomorrow as well. But yeah, he's adapted to these GT4 cars fairly quickly. He was putting up some really good times in that race yesterday as well.
He was. They got the potential of a good run here, starting 7th. A very even driver pairing there, whereas some of the others may see a little bit of a fall off in the lap times when the lesser graded driver jumps in at the halfway point today. Just a reminder on the pit stop rules: between the 25 and 35 minute of this 60-minute race is when that mandatory pit stop and driver change has to happen. No tire changes unless there's a cut tire or some kind of emergency, and no refueling.
And just an update on the lone KTM crossbow in the field from Marco Polo Motorsports. Talked to Nikolai Elganian, and he said the problem they had yesterday, we saw the car come in and steam and smoke at the back of the car. He said it was so hot back there with the heat from the track that one of the turbo mountings melted. And he said so they've replaced it, they've heat shielded it, they've welded it to keep it away from anything hot. And he said hopefully it'll last today. He said the car was running fine up until that happened. And this is a track where that car always struggles a little bit because of this long straight and that blast up through the S's. It's lightweight, it's agile, but it just doesn't have quite the power. They've done a BOP on it where they've added a lot more weight to the car, relative terms, but made it, opened up the restrictors a little bit, and it's more raceable, but this is a track where horsepower still rules.
It really does. You need that for the raceability,
yep.
Not just your lap time, but be able to be in the race and have the dynamic of where to pass.
So Bill Arberlin leads him down the hill in that Redline Oil Bimmer World. BMW shares with James Walker, and we'll talk a little bit more about James Walker's story here and how special that moment was yesterday for him when they ended up with the win. But now we got to get this one underway. 60 minutes of competition, round 4, Pirelli GT4 America's Sprintx competition, looking for that green flag. Once it flies, you can pass, and ooh, a little bit of an early move there maybe by Halen, but nonetheless, we are green. And it's not necessarily making a pass, it's moving out of line. Boy, look at
Halen gets in deep and just got too deep in there and absolutely nails Bill Oberlin in the rear bumper and turns him. Just overly aggressive there by Jan Halen. Just got it a little bit wrong on cold tires. Couldn't get the wheel down enough.
He's got a big wrinkle on the front of that car now, and he might have some problems because he's got people stacked up behind him here.
On yellow.
Yellow right away, that's what it is, okay. Oh boy. Yep. And well, now we're getting an indication it might be green again, but we see double yellows at the flag stations, and that's what we're going to be following for right now. All the drivers observing that, so that's going to promote Davis up into the lead with Kenton Cook second.
Yeah, it was a bit of a messy start there. It was a bit of a slow one, and Jan Halen looked like he's getting pretty feisty. He's already kind of in the middle of the 2 rows there from his grid position of P4. Jan Halen's in that white and orange colored RS1 machine, currently 3rd on the road. Let's take another look at it. You can see him in the middle of the road. Gets down into the middle there, just gets too deep on the brakes, and you can just see him fly through. He had to have got into the ABS, I would think, and just took over. You're going to see a fired up Bill Oberlin.
Oh, you bet. So.
Are you saying that was a no start? Is that Oberlin back in the front?
It sure looks like it. This is interesting. Are they basically saying it's a redo here?
Or was there a wave off?
Maybe that was it. I was so focused on what was going on in the field, I didn't look at the flag station. So maybe that's what happened.
Yeah. That would have to be the only explanation that Bill Oberlin has now reassumed his position at the head of the field.
Absolutely. Maybe that, I mean, because
that was the confusion. Some people were racing, some weren't, possibly.
Yep. And, I mean, that was, per the rule, that was a perfect start the way it looked for the flagger to wave it off. We get confirmation there was no start because it was ugly coming down the hill. A number of drivers were out of line. And when they say you can't make a move, they are literally talking about you can't even, more than a headlight, you can't move out of line until that green flag flies. And certainly there were drivers who were doing that and more, so I think that's the reset here. So, take 2. Clock has started, however. That looks a lot better.
It's almost like a cut and paste. Jan Halen immediately gets the jump on Andrew Davis and flies over to the right-hand side of the road, follows Kenton Cook on the inside line down into turn 1. Oberlin maintains the lead, has about a car length gap on the rest of the pack right now.
That looked almost identical in a lot of ways, just without any contact here. And Davis might have enough swing around the outside. Is he going to get inside of Kenton Cook heading in here? Kenton's going to fight him all the way in that Aston Martin.
Watch for Jan Halen, though. He's going to try and tuck underneath Kenton Cook as they run down to turn 4.
Kenton's still parking around the outside. Nice job. Halen giving him room. And Kenton could make him work around the outside of 4, Cal. Not everybody does that.
No, that's classy stuff right there.
Is, by both of them.
Yeah, I just felt with Andrew pushing the inside there, it would make Kenton Cook vulnerable. Big battle here as they turn in. Kenton has to give it to him. That is high-speed stakes right there if you touch at those speeds.
Yep. And that was one where, I mean, Kenton had to give it up. He understood that, to be sure.
Like Miller there, really wide, dust flying.
Yeah. He's got Patrick Gallagher right there in that wild livery Aston Martin there. That's the team car, essentially, to the Jan Halen one. That's the RS1 entry. Oh, a Reardon car. Huge bump there, and I think it tore something off the underside of that car, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Cars are off?
I think it was. Yep, the number 91.
See Jason Hart there very much in the mix. He's frustrated after another one of those cars that ran out of gas. He had a podium run going, so that bright yellow and white Nola Sport car there, you see it. It's going to have to get pretty racy here. As you said, all the pros are stacked up here, so there's no easy pickings. There's no easy meat at the front of this pack here today.
No, and Toby Grahovic has had a great start. He has moved up. He just got around Gallagher, and I think that might put him into 5th or 6th. So a great opening full lap by Toby Grahovic. There is Kozarov, and I think that is exactly who it was.
Didn't qualify where we expected him to be as they learn the ropes of this Aston Martin. And there's a touch there between he and Robbie Foley in the Flying Lizard car that he shares with Michael Dinan, who's coming off his 3rd victory of the year in Sprint Am competition here earlier today. Feisty stuff.
It is. Oh, and Michael Cooper just trying to get down to the inside and make some moves. And people using every ounce of racetrack and more here through the snake. There's Cooper.
Up a few positions, but even for someone of Michael's speed and talent, it's not easy with the lineup that we have starting this race today.
Yeah, for sure. See, he's right up there with Derek DeBoer in the Racers Group, LaSalle Solutions, Fast Life TV entry.
Off over the back of Robbie Foley. See some argy-bargy here between these two very competitive drivers. Kozarov immediately goes to the left side of the road. He's dropping way back, doesn't it, from Foley there? Dropped like 2 to 3 car lengths there on the straightaway.
I wonder if that isn't something to do with what came off the car. It messed something up here. Because it looks like he's pretty good through the twisty bits, but...
Start is under review, so there was obviously some contact. I'm not sure if that all goes away, if it was a non-start or not, or whether it's just where people were positioning themselves causing the wave off.
Well, I think some of that review could simply be, did somebody move early, and will it be some sort of a penalty as well? That's the other part of the review process. There's a look at Cooper. Flying Lizard Motorsports machine. There, show the nose here. They really are, behind the proverbial 8 ball here because they had that problem before qualifying for the first race, and the way that things worked here, they had to miss both sessions. And the second fast lap from your first driver sets the grid for the 3rd race, so they end up now having to start dead last for all 3 of these races here this weekend. That's tough.
That is a long road, it really is. So just the nature of the beast with these triple header weekends in terms of figuring out the format, but certainly not the ideal day that they were looking for here yesterday. But Michael Cooper bounced back nicely with a sprint win today, caught Spencer Bumpelli after a restart and got the win done.
And 37 is going to get a drive-through penalty, even though it was a wave off. The clock starts, the race effectively starts, so that contact looks like they're going to get the drive-through here. So we watch Grahovic leading and Patrick Gallagher. We were watching this yesterday, that car, that RS1 Aston Martin that he shares with Matt Dalton. On all the entry lists is Joe, but he said, I really prefer to go by Matt. That was my grandfather's name, and I used that name in homage to him because he made my life fun when I was growing up. But that car, the graphics package, is a direct copy of the legendary guitarist Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat that he designed with the folks from Fender. So you get those wild sounds out of that guitar, and clearly Matt is a fan. And into the pits comes Jan Halen.
50 kilometers an hour. This is going to cost him probably around 30 seconds here compared to the field. So this day went south on him in a hurry. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think Aublin. I think Aublin was up to speed. So I think either way, whether it was green or a wave off, I think there would have still been contact there.
Yep, I think so.
And I think
too.
maybe added rub to it was the fact that he was kind of the one in the middle there jostling around to maybe create the wave off in the first place. So Aublin up front setting a nice pace here, stretching the lead to nearly 3 seconds on Andrew Davis with just 4 laps on the board. Admittedly, Davis had to fight off a couple of cars there in that opening lap, which probably stymied his opening lap speed somewhat.
Kent and Cook, nice to see them having a really strong run from up on the sharp end of things in that B Sport. Aston Martin, brand new team. put together by Brian Putt, who's the runaway champion in the TCR Cup category last year. And then the leading silver car, John Miller, sits in the 4th spot. There he is. And I've talked about the graphics package on that, and it's the car sponsored by GPI Biotech. But that graphics package of both his car, his and Sam's car, and then the number 38 car, it's an homage to Van Gogh's Starry Nights. Is basically that's what that's patterned after. It is just a beautiful graphics package.
Yeah, it looks mega.
And guy named Andretti's looking a little racy behind these two.
Yeah, he's got a bit of work to do. We're used to seeing Andretti right at the front of the pack here, so they had a few dramas yesterday and just trying to work things out. So he's got a little bit of work cut out for himself and Colin Mullen. And they currently sit 2nd in the silver points behind Whitmer and Gottsacker. It's important that they have a good day and keep the pressure on.
And behind him is Jason Hart in the 47 NOLA Sport entry, the Vest Energy car right behind Jarrett here. In that Window World car, and they were another car, Hart and NOLA Sport, that ran into some issues.
Yeah, it's not often that you see Jason Hart running down towards the bottom part of the top 10. Normally he's fighting out for the lead or a podium at least. Such consistency. Went on a tear at the beginning of last year. I think they had 7 wins in a row to start the championship, but just got pipped right at the end by Sean Quinlan and Greg Leafouge for Stephen Cameron Racing, but nonetheless a tremendous season of racing. Started off the year strong at Coda this year as well.
And you mentioned that car, the number 19. It did not start today. They had a real problem in the qualifying session for this, but normally that would have been okay. You guys are certainly capable, and you can go ahead and start at the back. But something has evolved here because they're not even in the field today. That's brutal for their championship hopes.
We're looking at Michael Cooper aboard the number 30 Flying Lizard Motorsport. McLaren right behind him is a Flying Lizard entry for Robbie Foley, but Aston Martin, so 2 different brands that they're representing. Like these British manufacturers, I guess.
I guess so. They're chasing Cole Serralo. And the CCR by TFB entry that he shares with Tim Barber. Right there, that number 25.
See how much Cooper pulled out on Robbie down the straightaway there.
It's unbelievable.
That was incredible. I've seen that a little bit this weekend, that the Astons just don't seem to have the power down the straightaways to match some of the other manufacturers here this weekend. Good on a lap time, but vulnerable on the straightaways, it seems.
Well, that's the thing. You always have, even with BOP, you're just going to have scenarios where a car is just a little bit better on this track and not as good on another one. And that certainly seems, we've seen the BMWs here with this long straight. They really seem to be stout. The McLaren is decent, it seems, everywhere. It doesn't maybe be the best anywhere, but it's really good everywhere. And then the Aston Martin's maybe not good in that straight line, but boy, do they get through the twisty bits well.
Michael is really working Serralo over. Trying to figure out a way. Man on a mission, he's got to make something happen. Ideally, what he'd like to see is a yellow, make up a bundle of positions, get a yellow, get a regroup, have another attack on it before he has to turn the reins over to Aaron, who is also very capable and has done a great job early in this season.
It's going to be interesting to see here where Cooper can find a chink in Serralo's armor at this stage.
You would expect with the quote pros starting the race here that they'd extend their run here towards the back end of that pit stop window, so get close to the 35 minutes into the race before they do their exchange.
Boy, Cooper is close this time on the back, and he moves early. He got a huge run out of Oak Tree.
Just look at the gap between he and Robbie Foley, just increasing all the way down the straightaway. Cooper is on it. Car's working well. Good straightaway speed, good combination right there.
Yeah, and I mean, he had that brilliant run earlier today in the sprint category, so he knows what he's capable of and what that car can do. Different team, but same car, same program. Meanwhile, Bill Arberlin is just motored off, about 5-second margin clear of Andrew Davis, who's got 1.7 seconds over Kenton Cook. Those are all Pro-Am cars, and then fourth is your silver leader, John Miller.
Love to know what Bill was thinking when he was backwards down in turn one there on that opening lap.
There's Andrew. He's one of those drivers that's just immensely respected for so many reasons. Certainly his speed, his racecraft, his coaching ability, but also he's just a true gentleman. Here's Kenton. Good to see this all come together with he and Brian Putt. I mean, Kenton and his wife are very involved in the management of the B Sport team as well. And Kenton, it looked like he might slip through the net just a little bit here. And Brian Putt, great guy that he is, said, yeah, that's not going to happen.
It's all about networking for these young drivers. You've got to do the job on the racetrack, but ultimately you've got to cultivate relationships and people that you meet, campaign against, and get their respect. And when they move into something bigger and there's an opportunity, that's when you can make the call, or they make the call to you, and you're able to continue and move your career forward. So Kenton's a really nice young man, really smart, never seems to make a mistake on the racetrack, and bullet fast as well. So that's a very strong combination.
Yeah, it truly is. Ready now, right on the rear deck of Harry Gottsacker, the number 28. Ready, really getting up on that curve there a little bit as he's hustling that car down through the roller coaster.
Fastest lap of the day so far is to our leader, Bill Auberlen, at a 154.6. Andrew Davis chasing at a 154.55.3, excuse me, to his name. So Auberlen with a similar advantage to which he displayed in qualifying, and stretching that gap. And he's going to want to try and maximize that as much as he can before he turns it over to James Walker Jr., just to give the crew a good opportunity with the pit stop.
Yep.
And for James to get in the car, get back into a rhythm that he displayed yesterday, and try and secure another victory.
Yeah, James had that car on pole as the AM component in the Pro-Am yesterday, so this break has been absolutely massive, I think, for James Walker to figure out this car in this program.
Yes, I think certainly in terms of how he'll perform against the other AMs, he should be very strong, if not the strongest. I think the key is going to be for some of the silver lineups like Gottsacker, when he turns over Whitmer, and Andretti and Mullen, whether they can catch up some of the AMs and have that advantage that they have with silver drivers going up against AMs in the second half of this race.
Good look there at that number 33 once again, the RS1 Aston Martin in the hands of Patrick Gallagher. And he shares with Matt Dalton. That's the Belhaven, not Bland Racing entry. And Gallagher, of course, we've seen him. He was an absolute front runner in MX5 Cup competition. And when he stepped into the GT, he did touring cars, then he stepped into GT4, and he's just fast in everything. And is a very sought-after co-driver. And this is a great opportunity for Matt and the RS1 program here.
And they're a strong team, great engineering force. They always seem to have really good setups on their race cars. So running two different brands, I think, is not ideal. I'm not sure what the overall plan is long term, whether they'll switch the Aston Martins away from the Porsches, but certainly they always seem to be at the sharp end of the grid.
Look at these lap times here. And, Cooper trying to run down Jason Hart, and we know Cooper's an immense talent, but we also know Jason is as well, and they're running almost identical lap times.
High 55s, low 56s.
Oh, that
was tight.
Yeah, I didn't fully realize at the last moment if I do go for it, we're going to hit, and they touch there.
Yeah,
just a little. Hello.
They literally both parked. I think they're probably about 20 miles an hour off their normal apex speed there when they were side by side.
No, that's not what you want when you got a guy named Kozarov. Allowing him to get back into the play here. Behind Kozarov is the AM category leader, A similar looking car to Jason Hart's, a lot of that yellow. It's a NOLA Sport entry number 7.
Zach Anderson,
Yep.
Sean Gibbons having another strong campaign in class. Settling in here. 5 minutes away from pit stops potentially happening. But as we said before, we expect the pros to try and extend their run a little bit. There's a few driver lineups that have pretty equal drives in terms of speed, so they may elect to jump in early. But I think you'll find 3/4 of this field will stay out a little bit longer.
Sometimes you're also looking ahead to, if we stop now, where will we come out? And are we going to get stuck behind a pack of cars? So, well, maybe we'll wait a lap.
That happens really, but you can catch a yellow in the middle of the pit stop window. It happened in the GT3 race earlier today. And if you've got your pit stop done and dusted, it could certainly be a big advantage. You want to be able to stay on the lead lap, so you're going to lose 71 seconds by coming down pit lane. You got to factor that in as well as to where the leader is and coming out and trying to stay on the lead lap. Otherwise, you can get a bit stymied by being behind the safety car. Oh, there goes Foley. Same corner, and this time he makes it stick, just clears him. Nice job, good clean racing there.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, you could see Serralo, the back end of that Bimmer, stepped out just a little bit. Foley had rolled some speed, and that was smart. Yeah, I got to say, for the amount of laps here that Cole Serralo held off a driver the caliber of Robbie Foley after moving up from the TCA class last year to GT4.
Right.
Cole's doing one heck of a job.
Really is. That's a really good point, Greg. He doesn't have the experience that Robbie has in these cars right now, even though Robbie's still relatively early in his career, but certainly has achieved great things at a quick stage. But I like the way that Robbie's classy about it. He didn't bully it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's easy to get aggressive and elbow someone out of the way. He tried to do it the right way and get through there cleanly, and it took him probably a lap or two longer than he would have liked, but he still got the job done.
Just to make a point here, that yellow car we're talking about, second of the NOLA Sport cars, leading in the AM class right now. The car right behind it is Derek DeBoer, and that is the number 17. That's the Racers Group, LaSalle Solutions, and Presidio Surgical. And I did want to mention U.S. Rehab Centers. He shares it with Dr. Jim Rappaport, a spinal surgeon, and Dr. Jim is working with this U.S. Rehab Centers, trying to get rehabilitation treatment to be a lot more available to people that maybe otherwise couldn't afford it, and that's a great thing. But that is the battle for the lead in the AM class right now between Zach Anderson, so much of Jason Hart now, making a big move on the back of Andretti. It wasn't quite going to work, but that battle for the AM class is a good one.
It really is, and we saw a glimpse of Bill Auberlen there, who continues to stretch his lead margin now up to nearly 8 seconds on Andrew Davis. So certainly Bimmer World have got their car dialed in for Auberlen this weekend, and he's making it work and trying to get right back into things. We talk about these triple header weekends, making hay when you can, when you've got a good race car on a track that suits you. Well, Auberlen and James Walker Jr., they need to do that here. They didn't have a great start at Coda, so things are starting to turn around a little bit. If they get a max score here this weekend, that would be a big plus for them in the championship.
Just love watching the cars work their way up through the climbing S's and then through 10. Good look there at Jason Hart.
Looking hard, but look at this. Cooper has caught this group, so great work by Michael Cooper from the very tail end of the grid. He's now not that far away from Jared Andretti, who started at 11th, so that's the sort of work that Michael's put together this afternoon. You may think, oh, he's P11, not a big deal. Well,
Yeah.
he had to fight his way through a lot of really fast cars and fast drivers to get to this point.
And importantly for points, he's 6th in Pro-Am right now. He is right there.
Yeah, and his car is potent. I mean, it really seems to demonstrate great top-line speed, so I'm not sure how effective the rear wing, and if they've got that car trimmed out a little bit and still maintain the balance in it. You don't have a lot of front aero to balance it out with. You can't just drop the rear wing, otherwise you won't have any balance in the race car. You don't have a lot of adjustability on the front, but something's working with that car, because it certainly seems to have really good mid-straightaway speed.
It does, but I think Is some of it perhaps being generated by I think he's rolling some great speed up through Oak Tree, and he just exits that turn a little bit quicker than some of the others as well.
Certainly will contribute to that for sure.
I don't know that that's enough, but it doesn't hurt. John Miller just going after it here. Winner of the Western Championship with Harry Gottsacker last year for ST Racing.
Yeah, I thought Samantha drove really well yesterday. Had the car up in the top 5 or so and handed it over to John in good shape. And they ultimately finished second in class yesterday.
They stumbled on that last lap with that fuel issue as well, but yeah, great driving. Samantha said, she said the car was just phenomenal. She said it just was so confidence inspiring. And even John, you know, he had alluded to it. He said that was one of Sam's best drives, and it showed. It really did.
This little battle has got a lot of intense rivals right there, but no one's really making any big moves. Derek DeBoer, as usual, having a really strong run for the LaSalle Solution TRG entry.
There you can see what we were talking about earlier, that Aston Martin of Kozarov, after that off, that car just seems to have some issue with straight lines.
It's just not performing correctly. Not sure if it's heat related or something, but just doesn't seem to be on song.
And windows open, and right away Cole Serralo heads to pit lane.
Right there, not so bad. It's just down Madison Avenue, down the backstretch. He seems to be vulnerable. Kozarov with his speed. Ready jumping out. Colin Mullen getting in. This is a great driver pairing.
It really is. They just clicked last year immediately when Colin stepped in. Was it at Sonoma?
I think it was, yeah. And got a lot of experience on that group. John Andretti put that group together, and just got some great leadership there with Robin Pemberton and the rest of the crew guys. They work extremely hard, and Jarrett has got so much passion about his racing, and I think bringing in young Colin Mullen, who's a star of the future as well. Ooh, that's tight on entry.
It's going to be close, yeah. They're battling for the exit here. So that should be Chandler Hull taking over from Toby. Boy, I'll tell you, what a stop by Andretti Autosports. 15/100ths of a second over.
That's nice.
That's executing.
Yep. As we said, everyone will tighten up those margins as the weekend goes on. Just make sure that all the data you got together in the first race is playing out. Give yourself maybe a second of a buffer there, and then tighten up for day 2 is exactly what they did. You can't say if we had a slightly quicker pit stop we would have jumped the classic BMW, because you can't get any closer than that.
Can't do that, exactly.
It's all about getting into a rhythm. Remember, there was no tire change done here, so it's all about just the driver adapting to the track conditions. Meanwhile, Oberlin up front continue to stretch that margin.
It's up to about 10 seconds now, Cal, over Davis, who's got Kenton Cook getting a little bit bigger in his mirrors. They've got about 2.5 back to Miller.
You'd have to think, even though you're rolling the dice a little bit in terms of catching the yellow, that they'll try and keep Oberlin out there as long as they can before switching over to James Walker Jr., just try and extend that margin a little bit further.
John TC bringing the number 69 BGB Motorsports Porsche down to the pits. He'll be turning over to Collingwood. Keeping an eye on the clock for all these stops here.
This could be a humdinger of a battle here between Mullen and Hull.
Two young guns.
And Hull immediately getting up to speed after a pretty big off in the sprint race earlier today. So You climb out of a badly damaged car and get thrown into the middle. Right in with the Wolves here in the middle of this Sprintx form of competition. A chance to warm up and feel your way back in. Gotta be up on it.
On the other hand, it's minimized the amount of time he's got to sit and think about that crash as well. It's just get in and go. And he seems to have responded beautifully, as you said here. Everybody at the sharp end staying out still, and we would expect that.
Yeah, essentially all you're doing with the faster driver, you're just trying to keep him out there as long as he can to lay those laps down, increase any margins or minimize any gaps to the person ahead if they can, and then leave it to their AM partner to try and bring it home. But I think we're going to see some good battles. There's some really good AM drivers in this field this year, and then you got the silver pairings. Can they make some hay here in the second half of the race with a slightly better performance?
Ooh, moment here. That's who we're talking about. Yep.
The oak tree, so I'm not sure if Colin tried something there that wasn't on, but tough part of the racetrack to make a move if he did attempt one, or whether Chandler just made a little mistake. Seems like they both got away with it.
Yeah, position change, but doesn't look like there's any.
Tires are going to be dirty. Just got to be careful here in the brake zone.
I think that's Whitmer has taken over in the number 28. That was pole and huge lead in the race yesterday until that last lap.
Not a great start for them, 74.7, so they left almost 4 seconds on the table there, but nonetheless able to take advantage of the contretemps here between the BMW and McLaren.
That's a sound I'm going to remember. Well, here, let's take a look at what the issue could have been here.
Oh, Chandler just got in there a little bit wide. And
Colin followed him right up.
Target fixation there. Right with him, so no contact whatsoever. So he should be able to continue and maintain speed as Davis now hits pit lane.
And they both, and underneath them both went Whitmer when that happened here. So here's the stop, key stop, obviously, considering it's from second overall. Miller's in, Cooper's in, and Foley is in now as well. So
Jason Bell about to start his 5th race of the weekend. Got 3 more tomorrow. Yeah. Busy boy. Samantha jumping in here. Great stint by Michael Cooper. Erin Vogel going to be jumping aboard the McLaren. Lots of really talented female drivers in the field this year. See the tire pressure, which you're allowed to do. Not allowed to change tires, but you can adjust the pressures.
And that's a good sign. When everything's done and you sit for a little bit, that's usually a good sign. Looks like Bell is just going to sneak out in front of Samantha. Good stop. 112.8. Ooh, a 15.7.
Yeah, I was going to say they shouldn't be that close based on where they were when they came in.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the GMG stop with Andrew jumping out and Jason getting in was not the best. It cost them quite a bit of track position.
Uh-oh, and look at Foley and Dynan. 6/10 short.
Well, they got the Joker to work with, right?
They do, I believe, in GT4 as well.
And here comes Oberlin.
All right.
Couldn't squeak at another one. If you look at the clock there, he can't squeak another lap.
Let's get down to Ryan.
Driver change underway. It's James Walker Jr. climbing in, replacing the BMW legend that is Bill Oberlin. Walker, in his day job, he is an automotive engineer, does some crash damage evaluation, ABS development, and it transitions nicely to his hobby, which is driving race cars and driving them very fast. They were your winners overall yesterday. Made the mistake of calling it improbable. Bill Oberlin said, no. We thought this was a package that could win races. Really smooth pit stop for the Bimmer World guys. They're just waiting on the clock, and that's exactly what you want to see as the pit lane gets busy around them.
Well, Bill Oberlin is renowned in any form of endurance competition is one of the fastest driver changes. So when you don't have these weights and minimum times, he is bullet fast getting out of a race car and getting in, because he recognizes that those are the little elements within a race that can really make a difference. Pit in laps and really just taking every little bit of time off the board. Oh, damage there. Is that a door opening on Vogel?
It might be, yeah. So a decent stop, a little bit long. 1.9 seconds for them.
But Bill had about an 11-second lead, it looked like, when he came in.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You don't want to cut it too close. If you're in a real battle and you're talking like tenths and within a second or two, you know, cut it fine. But if you've got a healthy lead like that, just make sure you're just a safe margin outside that minimum. Gibbons jumping in here. Always a factor in these AM class championships, it seems.
Now, and that 37 RS1 car.
Everything cycle through, but we should still find that Bimmer World number 82 now with James Walker Jr. behind the wheel with the lead.
Yeah, once everything cycles and we start to see, it's going to be interesting to really keep an eye on lap times here, isn't it? Ooh. Got here.
Jason Bell now adjusting back to a GT4 car from a GT2 car that he was driving just a couple of hours ago. So Vogel was in and out again. I think there must be a problem with the bodywork here.
Yeah.
Vogel now up to speed, finding his groove, finding the rhythm. Got a nice gap to work with. Just manage the tires, manage the gap.
Well, and they ended up, after that great qualifying effort by James yesterday, to be on the class pole, and then ending up getting that overall win. Oh, and this is Dr. Rappaport, Jim Rappaport, having a quick spin. Looks like Oak Tree. Watch it here. Just got away from him.
Just loses the rear. Typically it's an understeer there when you try and carry too much speed through the corner and you're on a slightly wider radius than what the road gives you, but just got a little bit taily. They're going there, going through 11, couldn't catch it.
Right in front of Matt Siljahaug. He was able to make that work, and that Jason Bell in the number 2 and Samantha Tan in the number 38. This is for 3rd overall right now.
Yeah, Tan has the lead, so an ST Racing 1-2 in the silver category right now. I think the real key will be Whitmer.
Yeah.
Whitmer is running 5th overall, 2nd in silver. Should have the pace to maybe run everyone down ahead of him, other than James Walker Jr. I think he's too far down the road, but he's 8 seconds behind Putt, who runs 2nd overall right now, and I think that may be in his wheelhouse. We'll have to wait and see.
He was a rocket ship yesterday, to be sure. To finish what I was saying about Walker, that after that amazing win yesterday with everything that unfolded in that pole, it was struck to me that you think about when he came here last year, it was after that St. Pete crash where he absolutely rode off, unfortunately, that Alpha Giulietta, the TCR car, and he got hurt, ended up had surgery. That was his first race back. It was a new car. It was unsorted. It was wet. It was cold. He missed all this track time with issues. He said it was that VIR. He said it was the most miserable days in my racing career, and he said to come back here and end up having things unfold like it did yesterday. He said it was just unbelievable just to see that the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and it swung positive big time.
Yeah, it'll give you some bad days, but there's also some sweet days as well, and they're having a sweet weekend right now if they can bring home their 2nd consecutive victory here at VIR. There's a healthy lead to be managing here. As everyone, the 2nd driver's now firmly in their groove. Just over 21 minutes to go. The gap between Walker and Putt is 15.5 seconds, with Bell and Tan about 2 to 3 seconds further back.
Watching this number 30 Flying Lizard McLaren now in the hands of Aaron Vogel. And Cal, you called it. You thought you might have seen a problem with the door, and apparently, Ryan, that's the case?
on. So the good news, no damage to the car, but the bad news is the damage is done metaphorically speaking. The door just couldn't get closed during that pit stop. They thought they had it closed, they released the car, and a little bit down the road, all of a sudden the door popped back open, so they had to bring the car in for an unscheduled pit stop and make that fix, essentially, just get that door shut tight. And unfortunately, that nullifies a really remarkable charge for Michael Cooper in his opening stint to the race.
That's a very good point. He was absolutely hooked up, and it has taken away an opportunity for Aaron to show what she's capable of too. And yeah, that plus you're not allowed a movable aerodynamic device like that. Let's see what kind of times James Walker's putting in here. I mean, it was a 57.8 that last lap, and nobody's dramatically underneath that.
That's okay with the chasers and their pace. This is exactly what he needs to be doing. So no need to try and break any records here for James Walker. Just keep it clean. I think the only one who had potential to chase him down was Whitmer, but he's too far back and too many cars to get through. But if there's any sort of reset, if there's a caution, then it could be a different story because the gaps would be eliminated.
Both Whitmer and Mullen right now just ran 156.7s. But as you said, that's not going to be enough.
Jason Bell's done a really nice job as gap Samantha a little bit here, about 2.5 gap now between 3rd and 4th on the road.
This should be interesting here. You got Colin Mullen, who is certainly a very, very talented young driver, and Matt Travis, who's one of the fastest AM guys out there right now in that NOLA Sport Porsche. Should be a good little duel. Behind them, you can see Dynan and Hull.
And that McLaren is hooked up. It's got straightaway speed and just puts the power down so well. Have to give it up into this corner, see if he can tuck under as Travis runs a little bit wide there.
That's the thing. You exit turn 3. If you're going to do something in 4, you need to make that decision like immediately.
Well, you need the driver you're competing against to get really shallow and just kind of overshoot that corner. By going in shallow, you typically run out wide, late to the power, and you just got to be there and set it up and recognize that. So put the pressure on, make them take that shallow angle of attack to the corner, and then be there to respond on the exit.
Whitmer just turned to 56.1.
Right there now. So I think he should be able to pass his teammate Samantha Tan here, chase after Bell and putt, but I think Walker's too far down the road, so that's my prediction here. But he's got to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
First of all, take care of business here, get the class lead. It's your teammate in front of you. She's doing a really nice job. Just make sure you make a wise move.
And an opportunity, assuming Whitmer does get through, if Samantha can stay with him for just a little bit to learn. Watch what he's doing at this stage of the race on worn tires.
Yeah, she's really got some great people around here.
Boy, doesn't she?
Obviously her teammate John Miller, and with Harry Gottsacker and Whitmer in the other car. And he's not just letting him go. I mean, he's having to work for it here. Now he tucks it back under there.
Let's see how hard she fights here. She's fighting. Finally, he just comes across.
That's cool. It's good to see. Okay, now he just needs to settle in and focus forward. He's got the leading class. See if he can get an overall podium as well. I think Jason Bell's done a really nice job in jumping between different cars and now encountering your 5th race of the weekend with one more day to go. It's a big feat, and a GT2 Porsche is a totally different animal to this GT4 car that he's in right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Andrew Davis did a really nice qualifying job and opening stint to hand him the lead in great shape.
Walker, that margin's still 14 seconds to putt. That lap Brian was a little bit faster than James was.
Yeah, that's fine though, mate.
Yeah,
right? This is,
you bet.
I'm sure the team will be talking to James and just say, just keep doing what you're doing. Everything's fine. Manage your pace. Don't take any chances.
Talking to James a little bit after yesterday's race, and he said it is like going to graduate school being Bill Arbolin's teammate. Said it's just absolutely staggering. But before we get into that a little bit more, let's check in with Ryan Marine.
Well, going back to the conversation about Jason Bell and jumping between the different cars, it's interesting. I had a conversation with him about that several months ago as he was outlining this ambitious program. And as Calvin mentioned, there are very distinct differences between these cars, but he said that maybe it wasn't as pronounced as he was even expecting. And the fact that he was able to test them back to back and feel that, yeah, you know what, there are differences, but there's enough similarities as well that it left him confident that he could do exactly what he's had to do here, going from one car to another in quick succession. So this is actually all a part of the plan, and one of the advantages, he told me, of being part of the GMG team, which has so many of these cars under the same roof.
Well, and if you're going to have weekends like this, obviously, Ryan, you're absolutely right. I think it's invaluable to be able to test them back to back. And when you step into one, you know, okay, this is the little adjustments I need to make here. And he's doing it, and he's doing it in Ironman style this weekend, because 8 races on any weekend's tough in this heat and humidity.
Yes. It's a monster task.
Yep.
And hats off to him for even thinking about doing it. But this would be a nice result. He's just got to keep it clean, stay focused, and I think this is really the critical time of this race. Under 15 minutes to go. This is where that fatigue and focus could really play a part.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Dynan, first of the cars in the screen, up and over the rise. It's that Flying Lizard Aston Martin, and then right behind him, Chandler Hull.
Maybe it was Whitman disappeared. Dropped down the order.
Sure has.
Towards the bottom part of the top 10, so he must have had a moment or some kind of technical issue.
Yeah, he's now 9th overall, 4th in class after having taken the class lead.
Wow.
And his last lap was a 2:20.2.
There he is. Let's see if he's back up to speed, but that's giving the lead back to his teammate Samantha Tan. So she and John Miller could be on their way to the second win of the weekend for the team, but the first for them.
I think the problem is you've got a guy named Travis right behind her. Now, it's not for you. That's a good point. That's not for class. That's for overall. Yeah, she's got some room in the class, doesn't she, now? Back to Chandler Hull.
Yeah, she's got about 4 or 5 seconds over Chandler. Still a long ways to go, so we'll see if she can handle the pressure of grabbing a victory. Totally different when you're just driving around for maybe a top 5 or a podium when the team tells you, okay, you're in the lead, bring it home.
Yeah, exactly.
And all sorts of things start to go through your head when you don't have a ton of experience being in the lead of a motor race.
Boy, Nick just looks a little ragged here, doesn't he?
He's really been off the road a lot. Seems to be overdriving a little bit, trying to make up for something that may have happened. Who knows? Did he make a mistake and cost him all these track positions? Is he trying to make it up in a hurry, or one way or another, he lost about almost 25 seconds, Greg, to Samantha. So that's a big margin.
Well, we think we may know why, or at least our man in the pit lane might. What's up with the 28?
I got the word from the team. There was a drive-through penalty assessed for some kind of pit stop infringement. I was unable to get the exact details, but something went awry in that pit stop, and that's why we saw Nick pass through the pit lane here just a few moments ago.
There you go. That would explain the margin.
Yeah, absolutely. And the guy that just got through on him when he got a little ragged over there is one of the Cinderella stories of the weekend here, certainly. That's Chris Wilson, who runs with John Allen, and they had that at one point after Chris had built up a lead. John got in the car, ended up having a little mistake up in the Oak Tree turn, was parked backwards on the track, and when everybody started having these fuel issues, John Allen was able to sneak through and said, I think I may have just passed the leader, guys, as he took the checker, and he was right.
He was, and Wilson now leads in the M class, so they could do a follow-up here this afternoon.
Boy, that was nice. I think that was just Matt Travis just going around Samantha Tan up in front of these two. Yep, he got through again. That's just for overall. It's not, but the bigger issue for Samantha Tan right now, as she looks back, is the 26 of Chandler Hull, that class of BMW.
Yeah, she's got to get up on the wheel now. Team have got to talk her through that. They need to get John Miller on the radio, if he isn't already, just talking her through here, try and use every trick in the book to try and talk her home. What a bounce back it would be for Chandler if he could get this class victory as well. That would be a great story, having had a big incident this morning in the sprint race with big damage coming through the snake.
The 25 of Barber would be next in the silver queue, 5.5 seconds behind Chandler at this stage. Then Mullen, then Elganian.
Dynan having another strong run here today. He's really at home in this Aston Martin. His third sprint win of the season today. He's that championship handily.
All right, here we go. Game on. Samantha down through the roller coaster. Chandler 3 car lengths back.
She's been working hard. She's had Nick Janssen kind of mentoring her, getting her on a fitness regime, really getting her focused on her racing, taking it super seriously, trying to take it to the next level.
Oh, she left that inside open just a little bit.
A little lock up there from here, you could see just a little bit of smoke coming from that unweighted right front corner.
And that's a change now, so Chandler Hull picks up the lead in the silver class from Samantha Tan. Dynan right behind, that's Pro-Am, so that's not going to be an issue. But then Barber, who has been throwing down some pretty impressively quick times as well in that number 25. He's back a little. There he is.
Yeah, that's the next person that Samantha has to worry about, because that would be for a class position as well.
With 8.5 to go. Up front, Walker. Boy, has he done everything asked of him at this stage. That leads back to 15 seconds by James Walker Jr. Bell hanging right in there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, he's just doing his thing. Yeah. He's found a nice sweet spot in terms of a consistent pace that he can run. Dynan looking to the inside there in turn 11. Thinks better of it. That would have been some contact if he made the move.
See, this is Samantha really did. That was a nice run through Oak Tree, and then that BMW, as we've talked about, good legs here, and pulls out just a little bit over Dynan.
I think I definitely see that the Aston is struggling a little bit in the straightaway stakes compared to the McLaren, certainly, and the BMW a little bit. Here we see James Walker Jr. Nice and smooth.
Doing a really nice job. Obviously, Bill built that big lead, but in the GT4 category, you don't do the tire change. And you know, Bill's awfully good at speed and still conserving a tire, but James has just been so smooth. Every time you see Brian Putt take a little bit out of him, Walker just comes right back and builds that margin again.
I'm sure when James Walker was watching the start of this race and he saw Bill Aublin get pile drive down into turn 1, he didn't expect to be leading by 15 seconds with 6 minutes to go.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And what a great day this will be for Brian Putt and that B-Sport team. He and Kenton Cook. And Brian had done a lot of racing when he was a bit younger, and then realized, you know, I was missing my life with my family and everything. Took time off. And when he finally decided to get back into racing, started racing the little P2 and P1 prototypes, they call it, an SCCA competition, lots of downforce. So that TCR category attracted him last year with that downforce. But they had their eyes on maybe doing something with this category, and created this new team to do it, and they're on their way to potentially an overall podium go.
Battle here with Belluardo, Burton, and Rappaport.
off there by Siljehaug.
Yes.
Or Elganian, actually. I think Siljehaug when it started. Losing patience here. Isn't
Tough place to make it happen,
he
but he
did
does.
And that's Barber now right behind.
Yeah, Samantha's going to be under the attack by the time she gets to turn 1 by Barber, and that's going to be for a position in class.
Yep.
Both will stay on the podium, but it's which way round.
5 minutes to go. See here, looking at Whitmer, things have calmed down a little bit, and he's starting to throw down some pretty good laps. But he's got Chris Wilson in front of him. Wilson just turned a 54.7.
That's getting it done.
That is fast up at near the end of the race here. I mean, fast lap was Oberlin at a 54.69, Cal.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Samantha's just got to keep hitting her marks. Don't open up the door. Stay focused. Look ahead. Try and get a good run through this corner. Just really get on the power early here. Don't get up that left-hand lane.
Yep. I think Barber thought she was going to float out a little wider in Oak Tree because it looked like he was trying to square up underneath, and then she didn't. And he had to adjust his line a little bit here.
This is good stuff.
It sure is. And this is
really putting a nice run here.
She is.
Big step up in performance, I would say, from last year.
What do we see in here? Well, there's it's Tom Collingwood on Derek DeBoer.
Yeah, just looked to the inside and then panicked a bit and just took it way down inside in the grass.
All right, now has Samantha learned her lesson? Don't open up that inside going into 1. In fact, it was Barber who opened it up, and Wilson almost drove down the inside. Wilson is just flying right now.
Yeah, he is hooked up. He's having a great day. A really good run going in the GT3 race until a little technical issue and went to park it and reset it. He's got to be careful here.
Yep. Oh, Barber. Sam just floated a little wide there. Looked like the exit of 3.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be ugly.
I did too.
As well.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been on form here this week. And Wilson, we're talking about, qualified outside of the front row in the GT3 field. And now this kind of a run.
Surprised to see him try and tuck it in here. Almost ran over the top of Sam there in turn 11, so he didn't have the opportunity into Oak Tree. Thought he's going to maybe just try and run it down to the inside there.
So Wilson's lead in the AM class is fairly sizable now. Gibbons in the number 7 NOLA Sport car is second, but is 13th overall to Wilson's 9th, soon to be possibly 8th here.
He just took the white flag, 1 lap to go. Wow, he's been running consistent 57s, 58s, which is plenty.
Yeah.
Didn't need any more than that with the margin that had been established in the first half of this race.
Aaron Vogel up behind him after solving the door issue. Trying to save something here. She's put in some pretty good laps out there. Last lap was a 57.9, Cal.
Yeah, this putt to bell margin is tightening up a little bit. Final spots on the podium. Who's going to finish second? Who's going to finish third? Look like Brian seems to be in control of it. But really nice run by Jason. I really Was wondering how he would factor in making that transition between the various cars this weekend, and probably feeling a little bit tired and jaded by the end of today. But he's really maintained focus nicely in a brilliant performance.
Yeah, he really has. It's going to be an overall podium as well as a class podium for he and Andrew if it all stays together here.
I'm sure Andrew's on the radio talking him through this, trying to maintain his focus, getting him through these final few laps.
Well, and you think about it, Bell and Andrew Davis after yesterday's race are 4th in the points. And Brian Putt and Ken Cook are 7th. So you're not going to make up ground, a lot of ground here at all on Oberlin and Walker, obviously. But if you just bring it home where it is, you're going to be okay here in terms of Jason Bell. But out of this last turn, what a weekend for the Bimmerworld pairing of Oberlin and Walker. An overall win yesterday, an overall win today for Bimmerworld at home. And Bill Oberlin and James Walker Jr. Boy, they are looking to be the pairing here. Certainly at this track, it's spectacular. Brian Putt and Ken Cook come home. Then it's going to be Bell and Davis. And then this is a drag race here. Travis is through Hull, will win silver in a great run with Toby Grahovic. So there's a win for Toby after way too many seconds as of late. Nicely done. And a good comeback drive by Chandler Hull after that big crash earlier today. And then Wilson, once again, just an absolutely superb run, bringing it home with John Allen to win the AM category for the 2nd straight day.
Yeah, just a lot of people doubling up. It's very impressive here with the level of competition. Just a great race, just some really good heads-up racing. Got off to a little bit of a messy start with the wave off on the initial green, and then Bill Oberlin getting punted down into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's Jim Rappaport. It's had kind of a fraught race here. And, you know, maybe the one scenario here with that you could throw into that coulda, woulda category would be Whitmer if they wouldn't have had that drive-through or whatever that pit infringement was. I don't know exactly what it was for. It seemed to rattle him just a little bit. It took him a couple laps after that to calm things down. He ends up 4th in silver, 4 seconds only behind Tan. And if that pit stop hadn't happened, I think he would have been right in that fight as well. So.
Yeah, I think he had potential to finish in the top 3 overall today. So a bit disappointing there, and they'll have to rebound tomorrow. But nonetheless, decent points for the championship leaders. They had an 18-point advantage over Andretti and Mullen coming into this round. So not the day they were looking for, but not disastrous either.
And you bring up a good point about tomorrow. You know, normally 2 races complete. It's Sunday, and we're getting ready to head home. Yeah, not here. This is a 3 race weekend here for us, and we're loving it. After 4 months off, we'll take 3 races in each class in a weekend, won't we? You betcha.
Particularly here. It's just great to be at the racetrack and great to see some awesome racing today.
Here's a look at the provisional results. And you can see up front, Oberlin, Walker with their 2nd straight overall and class win. Putt and Cook with a 2nd in class. That's Pro-Am. Bell and Davis 3rd. And Hart and Travis 4th. Then the silver class winner. And that's the black number with the white background off to the right of Grahovic and Hull for Bimmerworld. Dinan and Foley 5th in Pro-Am. Then Barber and Serralo 2nd in silver. And Tan and Miller 3rd in silver. That's your podium there. And then John Allen and Chris Wilson winning AM once again. 2nd in AM, Sean Gibbons and Zach Anderson. And 3rd, Tom Collingwood and John Teesey. And the VGB cars look at some of the highlights. In the original start was kind of a low light. It was waved off. I'm not sure Halen got the message.
They just got in there super deep and gets into our pulsar to Bill Oberlin. Here's the restart, a little bit cleaner, but yeah, Halen very much in the fight.
Yeah, right from the off for sure. And there's Andrew Davis up inside of Kenton Cook in the early part of this race. And Jan Halen right in the mix there again, side by side with Kenton Cook for a couple of corners. Finally had to give it up. And then this moment, double off here.
Yeah, Chandler Hull just gets it a little bit wrong through turn 11, and Colin Mullen goes with him. Both recover and had pretty good days.
And then the airfoil door for Aaron Vogel, which necessitated an extra pit stop. And this was the pass right here for the win in silver. As they got through and pulled off that win. Great run there, but James Walker Jr. bringing that BMW from Bimmer World, the Red Line Oil Machine, there he is through, and that is one happy guy. We talked about how 1 year's difference here from one of the roughest weekends he's had in his racing career to arguably maybe the best, with 2 overall wins and a co-driver named Bill Oberlin.
Yeah, pretty sweet. He's got to be relishing this, and another day tomorrow, so don't party too hard tonight, James.
Exactly.
Come back in the morning.
As we're taking a look at the second place car, that's what I was talking about, where he said it's, you know, it's like graduate school with Bill, because Bill is the ultimate professional, and James is he's a tech data guy. That's how he makes his living, and he said, I love just poring over data, and he said, and Bill requires it. So the two of us, we just have these massive sessions, and he said, I'm learning so much in so many ways. And then this, we talked about it. You know, Andrew Davis does what Andrew Davis does, just an absolutely superb racer. But Jason Bell, he put in a drive today.
He really did. That was a nice run for him at the end of a very long day. Didn't put a foot wrong, brings home a nice podium run, and congrats to him and Andrew.
Pretty car, that Aston Martin, isn't it? You talked about, you just like the lines of it. Well, let's get down and hear from our silver winners with Ryan Moraine.
And we'll start with one half of the driver lineup, Toby Grahovic. Toby, you've been racing a lot here the last, well, I guess we had that big break, but you raced a lot at COTA. You're racing a lot this weekend.
Yes.
A lot of second place finishes. You break through, you get the win, back in victory lane. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been stuck in second place, it seems like, all last year. This year, it feels great to be back on the top step of the podium. Got to thank the Classic BMW guys, and Chandler drove amazing. I just tried to save the tires for him, stay close to the front, and hand it off to him, and he did an amazing job driving through the field and bringing home number 1.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll go ahead and have Chandler step in. Toby, you could step out. Chandler getting a big drink of water before he chats with us. And, hey, this is professional win number 1 for you. You didn't even think you were going to be in this championship going back a couple of months, and here you are in victory lane.
Even a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We finalized it a couple weeks ago after I had done some testing in preparation for my European debut over there, but unfortunately due to all the travel concerns we had to postpone that until next year. So Toby, since we're both from Dallas, he graciously let me run one of his cars at a local track and get up to speed, and then we figured, hey, why not? We got an extra car, we're here anyway, so let's go for it.
So maybe unfortunate in some sense, but perhaps it came together for a reason. You're in victory lane and a winner in SRO America. Congratulations.
It feels great. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
That's the perfect rebound after that big shunt he had this morning in the touring car to come back and put that one together. And you talked about his first professional win. This track is going to be one that he dreams about from now on, because last year gave him his first professional podium and his first professional front row start. This year, first professional pole, first professional win. Pretty good stuff here, and absolutely awesome job. We're taking a look now at the Pro-Am category. There are your results at this stage, and again, some great racing throughout the field here. You wonder about the Burton Kozaroff thing. Something seemed to be a little off with that car after that moment Kozaroff had. I saw something come off of that car, and I think it affected it. And then Gallagher and Joe, or Matt Dalton, again, this is a big learning curve for Matt, but doing a nice job. And then Cooper, man, it's just a mega drive. And then for Aaron, she never could really show what she could do with that door problem.
Yeah, no, it's just a good bounce back. I mean, they're learning with that car, and it's all about building a notebook for the rest of the season. So I think they'll have some better days. They got to start at the back again tomorrow, unfortunately, because of the qualifying rules here this weekend. But some great performances throughout that field.
Well, I think we're about to hear from a couple of very elated drivers. One, because it's just a remarkable weekend for him, and two, because the other guy's always elated, right?
That's right. So Bill, we'll speak to him in a second. Bill Auburn.
You know, Kevin Buckler and the TRG group will deliver tomorrow.
Oh, no question about that. And that's going to wrap up things here from an absolutely busy and glorious day here, being back at a racetrack here at Virginia International Raceway. Want to remind everybody, we will be back with the third and final Sprintx race, and that will be happening 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Make sure you join us.